todos, por favor, tomen sus asientos. Agradecemos al Centro de Relaciones Internacionales por la organización de este evento, a la Embajada del Japón en México, quien nos permitió traer al ponente del día de hoy, al doctor Ryo Sahashi, al área de videoconferencias que está haciendo la transmisión vía YouTube y Facebook del CRI. Es solo lo que voy a decir en español por respeto a nuestro ponente. Entonces, la conferencia va a ser toda en inglés y incluso, pues los comentarios también van a ser en inglés. Good morning. We are joined today by Dr. Ryo Sahashi, professor at University of Tokyo. And Master Marco Lopategui, coordinator of the Center for International Relations, and Dr. Carlos Uscanga, professor at the Center for International Relations, whom I thank for being with us to inaugurate Dr. Sahashi's keynote address, who we thank for his lecture. I give the floor to Dr. Uscanga to say a few words.
No da para más. I would like to say, Sahashi Sensei, uname yokoso. You are very welcome to be here with us, and we are eager to hear your presentations regarding navigating U.S.-China competition and international order, Japan's strategic vision. I'm pretty sure that it will be very deep in your analysis, and we are eager to hear you, and I'm pretty sure that the audience will share the same feelings that I'm delivering to you right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uscanga. I give the floor to the coordinator of the Center for International Relations to say a few words and open this event.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Valdivia. Good morning, everyone. It is a great honor for me as a coordinator for of the Center for International Relations of this faculty to welcome you all to this important lecture. Today, we're privileged to have among us Dr. Uscanga, my professor and distinguished scholar, Dr. Valdivia, my colleague and dear friend, and of course, our keynote speaker, Dr. Ryo Sahashi from the University of Tokyo. Dr. Sahashi's visit is of a special significance, not only because of the topic that he will address, Japan's strategic vision in the context of the US-China competition and the international order, but also because his lecture coincides with the opening of the UNAM's Week of the Culture of Peace. This provides us a unique opportunity to reflect on how strategic visions and regional dynamics shape the global peace and stability. For our students of international relations and for the broader community of our faculty, today's event is an invitation to think. To think critically about Japan's role in a rapidly changing world order, and to connect these debates with our shared responsibility and build cultures of dialogue, cooperation, and peace. With that, it is my pleasure to declare this conference officially opened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, coordinator. Bueno, aprovecho para también saludar a los funcionarios de la Embajada del Japón en México que nos acompañan, al señor Yagi-san, gracias por estar también aquí. We are confident now we will have the keynote address by Dr. Sahashi. This event is being broadcast via YouTube and Facebook. And we are confident that our students will enjoy and learn a great deal from Dr. Sahashi. Thank you very much for being here at the Faculty of Political and Social Sciences of the National Autonomous University of Mexico and for giving us this lecture. I will read now Dr. Ryo Sahashi's curriculum vitae. Dr. Sahashi specializes in international politics in East Asia. His recent book is In a Search for Coexistence, the United States and Two Chinas During the Cold War. He recently edited Looking for Leadership, The Dilemma of Political Leadership in Japan, published in English, and wrote on the impact of the rising China on Asia order, Japan security policy, and Japan-Taiwan relations. Now he is writing his next book on USA competition and leading two groups studies on the alliance and order after the end of the Cold War. Concurrently, he served as a research fellow at the Japan Center for International Exchange. He regularly contributes to NHK, Nikkei, Asahi, Mainichi, Yomiuri, and other major media outlets. Dr. Sahashi has taught at Kanagawa University as professor until March 2019 and has been a visiting associate professor, Walter H. Sorenstein, Asia Pacific Research Center of Stanford University, and Shigeru Yoshida Chair of Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de México. He joined the University of Tokyo in April 2019, and concurrently he is an associate professor at Future Vision Research Institute of the University of Tokyo. He also served as an adjunct senior research fellow at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Tokyo Foundation, German Marshall Fund of the United States Partnership Fellow, and guest researcher for the first Special Committee Research Office of the House of Councillors. He is a member of the UK-Japan 21st Century Committee. He received his BA for International Christian University and his PhD from the Graduate Schools for Law and Politics at the University of Tokyo. He also studied at the Department of Political Science, University of Illinois, at Urbana-Champaign. That's the curriculum. Following the presentation, we will have a question and answer section. Please ask your questions in English, and we will conclude the event at 10:30. Dr. Sahashi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ryo Sahashi, and it is my great pleasure to come back to UNAM after 10 years. So I think 10 years ago, we didn't use this classroom, but it is my great pleasure to come back to this campus. And that time, I really had many good questions from your, alumni 10 years ago. So I look forward to getting many questions from you after my initial presentation, which might be like 50 minutes. So I think even after that, we have like 20 minutes for Q&A, maybe 30 minutes. So next slide, please.
I think you kindly came to this lecture hall, so you have some reason to know more about Japan. But let me explain 5 reasons, to know more about Japan. Because, Japan is not like really big power or superpower, like United States or China. Yeah, Japan is still number 3 or number 4 in the world, but we have many populations like Mexico. So, Japan is not like, say, 30 years ago, right? Our economy is not that very good. But I want to say, still, there are so many reasons to think about Japan. I really want you to encourage. I want to encourage you to study more about Japan. So let me list up 5 reasons, but maybe we can find more reasons to think about Japan. The first reason is East Asia is actually in a very dangerous place in the world now. And as a professor kindly mentioned, I studied about United States, China, and Taiwan, and I even specialized on North Korean issue. So, Taiwan Strait, rise of China, and North Korea. We have all stars, right, in East Asia, which could trigger a war or big crisis in the future. But for what is the reason for Mexican students or Mexican people to think about that? I think, East Asia now is a really central gravity, central role of world economy. Right? Many factories, many like semiconductors, many tips, and other materials, which is really must for your like smartphone or PC and everything, right? East Asian economy is well connected to Mexican economy too, right? Many companies, in Mexico, from Japan, from Korea, right? And from China. But that East Asia is now in a very flux, very unstable. And Japan is actually very important, existence in East Asia, because which is try to keep balance, try to say deter the war, try to love the status quo. Try to preserve the world as it is. There are many perspectives like China, North Korea, Russia, they have different perspective. I don't want to say they really want to have war. No, I never say that. But they want to change something in international sphere. But Japan really try to preserve what it is. Right? So I think, Japan's effort is really interesting, and Japan is a really close ally to the United States. And that is also very, interesting for you to know more about what this alliance means. Why alliance? Why not having your own power? Right? But Japan has decided to maintain the alliance with the United States as the most important way to survive. Right? So I think this might be very, informative view, or might have more implication for you to think about Japan case. And second reason is, with US pressure, with regional pressure, Japan has increased defense budget so much. When I was a student like you, Japan only spent less than 1% of GDP, gross national product, to defense budget. But this year, 1.8% of GDP, gross domestic product. And they try to aim to reach at 2%. I'm sure they will do that. And actually now, some American people pressure on Japan. You have to spend more, 3%, no, 3.5% of GDP. That is question. I really don't think, Japanese budget can do that. But the point is, Japan start to have more budget, more military power in East Asia, good or bad. But looking around East Asia, actually many countries try to increase defense budget, like China, South Korea, Taiwan, North Korea. and most of ASEAN countries, Southeast Asian countries. So East Asia is actually the area of military buildup. For military complex, military company, East Asia is the biggest market now, more than Europe. Actually, after Ukrainian war, European countries also start to buy more, but Asia is really, say, dangerous place with a lot of weapons and money for military. So this is my second point. It is very important to know East Asia or Asia is really changing balance of power or, the kind of military power. And third reason to encourage you to think more about Japan as a case study is, as you know, and I'm going to explain, the international order has been changing so much. Okay, next slide, please. This is just a photo from last week, right? Everybody know this photo. Oh yeah, this is a really new world, right? Actually, when I created this slide, you can see, welcome the new world. But actually, I put a different vocabulary on that. I said, I wrote originally, welcome the world of gangs. But actually, this is like turning point of the world, right? We thought United States was the really center of international order, right? Of course, we have kind of mixed feeling to United States. US, okay, fine, but you try to use military power so much, or you are really, say, very protectionist in trade. And, we have a lot of critique against the United States. But we believe US has been the very central power in international order. But now it is very shaky, right? President Trump is one reason, but not only President Trump, last decade, President Obama, President Biden, they also reluctant to be the power in international order. They start to say, oh, we have many burden on our shoulders. It's too much, right? So international order started to be destroyed last decade, but President Trump made the final push to the new situation. And now what you can see is China, Putin, and Russia start to have more popularity, start to attract more country leaders, right? So can you one slide back? So this is a reason for me to think, we have to think about Japan from the angle of international order. Like Mexico, we really want to preserve the international order as it should be, right? International order should be peaceful and also should promise growth based on like free trade, human rights, or global governance, climate change, pandemic, we really have many things to do. We really want to preserve, international order. But United States start to be not so happy to, sustain international order. So many people start to say, middle power, Japan, Mexico, EU, UK, South Korea, Australia, these middle power have to do more if they really want to keep international order. So that is the reason I really believe, students and professors in Mexico need to think about Japan because we are in the same boat, right? If we don't do anything, this boat of the, this globe will just sink. But, we really have to, underpin the international order. So maybe Japan is a really, really interesting case. We are not big power, superpower like US or China. So we don't have big resources, but we have some plan. We at least know we have to do more. So I think Japan is a really good case study. And, I spent too much time on this slide, but let me conclude another two reasons. So first reason is, as I say, Japan has been increasing defense budget so much. You may wonder how was it possible, right? Because 200% increase is crazy, right? Because, if I'm just I have a kid, just a baby daughter, and I have my family and, many things to do. So what I really want my government to do the most is education, social security, social welfare, right? This is same to every country, right? And don't get money from us. This is also same feeling, right? Don't, do more tax. But the government, at this moment, they don't increase the tax, but they start to, redistribute the budget to defense budget. So it is really difficult for politicians to decide to spend more money for military. So this is very mysterious. But Japan did it. So this is another reason, I want to encourage you to think about Japan as a case study. Why was it possible? You want to say, oh, American pressure. No, it is not that simple. We have our domestic politics. And the final reason I want to point out is Japan just had upper house election. And actually, I came here from New York. This is my long trip. But during this travel, my prime minister resigned. So it is a very difficult moment now for Japan. But upper house election in July, we firstly saw big wave of populism. Finally, Japan got populism. Like Europe, UK, or France, Germany, or Italy, or you can name every country. But Europe is with populism last 2 decades. But Japan finally. So look at the upper house election result. One of the populism party, Sanseitou, this is right-leaning conservative populist party. It received 18 seats in upper house. So, our upper house has 250 seats. So in the last upper house election, they try to compete 120, half of the full number. But 18 sounds like modest for you. No, we have to look at the number of votes. Sanseitou got 9 million votes. Japan's population is almost same to Mexico, 9 million votes. And if you may know our ruling party, LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, their vote is 14 million. The difference is only 5 million. Somehow, because of electoral system, LDP is still surviving. But many people start to look at populism party. This is the first time for us to see such a new wave of populism in 70 years. So, this is 5 reasons. I think I want to stop my lecture here, but I have some more slides. But, I think Japan is really interesting, to learn more. And maybe you can get a lot of lesson for international politics or for Mexican politics. Right? Okay, next slide, please. So let's come back to this slide. So I'm going to explain what I'm thinking about, international politics and also Japan's foreign policy from now on, for maybe 30 minutes. But what I'm going to explain is not, to respond 5 questions one by one. But maybe you can get some sense, And please try to have your own answer to 5 reasons or 5 questions I firstly posed. But okay, anyway, so please let's start from this slide. This is about, the kind of leaders parade, to celebrate 80th years anniversary of the war against Japan, right? We are surprised to see this photo. So many leaders gathered, actually 26 countries, you know. But we are surprised by more reason. First, in the first row, you know, three very famous guys stand together, right? From the left, Putin, the president of Russia, and Mr. Xi Jinping, the president of China, PRC, and then Mr. Kim Jong-un, the chairman of DPRK. So we, you know, there are so many leaders in the second row, third row, like you know, president of Belarus, president of Central Asian countries. But why Kim Jong-un is here in the first row? Have you thought of this? You know, North Korea, you know, sorry, if we have any friends from North Korea, I'm sorry to say, but I don't know. But North Korea is not that big country, right? It is fair to say North Korea is not like, you know, China or, you know, Russia. North Korea is smaller than some of Central Asian countries or Southeast Asian countries. But Kim Jong-un, Mr. Kim Jong-un, received the first position in this leaders parade. Why? Because the host country, China, want to treat Kim Jong-un so much. Why? Because they're afraid the last few years, Kim Jong-un, Mr. Kim Jong-un and Mr. Putin really made a close relationship, right? And you know, DPRK, the North Korean military fought in Russia against Ukraine. And actually, you know, more than 4,000 people killed in the war. So it is a big shock for North Korean people, North Korean society now. But, you know, North Korea and Russia try to fix the relationship. So this is a kind of new situation today. So North Korea is really braved by the, you know, backup from Russia and Putin. But for Xi Jinping, actually they start to think, oh, now we really have to change this game, right? Because they start to lose control against Kim Jong-un. So they have to do more. They have to fix the relationship with North Korea. If not, North Korea will not be within the control of China. So they may, you know, they are nasty. So they will do something, you know, which will not match with Chinese interests. So Kim Jong-un has been treated so well by Mr. Xi Jinping. But this is really big victory for North Korea and Kim Jong-un. This is actually the first time Kim Jong-un participated, Mr. Kim Jong participated in the multilateral international conference. This is also first time in more than half century, the representative of North Korea met with China and Russia together. So this is really big victory for North Korea's new leader. Not new anymore, but the leaders. So we are really, you know, terrified looking at this, you know, photo. Okay, now North Korea has been so much emboldened by the presence of two strong backups, right? And now President Trump may want to talk with North Korea like 8 years ago. But North Korea will be really tough against United States, right? So maybe President Trump might agree, North Korea, you can have nuclear weapons for a while. Just, you know, don't have a long-range missiles against US homeland. This is what we feared, right? President Trump might say, oh, I want to have a kind of very beautiful mansion, apartments in North Korea. Can you do that? And maybe Kim Jong-un say yes, right? So this could be the worst case scenario. United States may approve North Korea as a nuclear state, nuclear armed state. But North Korea is now big, how can I say, courage, after this big show. And also, we also have a big attention to the fact, China has been so much successful last 2 weeks. Before this parade, they had a big summit meeting in Tianjin with leaders from a Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And actually, I think 2 days ago, China, Russia, and other countries had a BRICS meeting. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, yes, and South Africa. Sorry, South Africa. But now actually BRICS has 11 countries, even including Indonesia, right? We want to say, we shouldn't say, oh, BRICS is by the control of Russia. No. BRICS start to be more diversified, right? But what I want to stress here is now China is very successful in getting diplomatic power from many countries. Or we can say it's a kind of recognition of Chinese power and influence from the world. This is what absence of US influence created in the world. Right? We start to see it's kind of the new world. So next slide, please. We believe, US power was really center of international order. This was a kind of idea we had after 1990s, after the end of the Cold War, right? Of course, I know many of you was born after 1990s. But, after 1990s, actually at that time I was a student, in high school and in college. But what we saw is United States is unipolar. United States is the only superpower, right? We also had 2 other assumptions after the Cold War. Second assumption is many countries will cooperate toward integration. Like looking at Europe, European Union was established just after end of the Cold War. In Asia, many countries start to cooperate more, like ASEAN +3 or East Asia Summit. It is the case with Central America and also Latin America, or everywhere in the world. We try to cooperate beyond the borders, right? And global governance was very famous, popular topic. When I was a student like you, I really wanted to work for United Nations. But that was kind of common sense, right? In 1990s, we thought US is a superpower, only superpower. But the second, this world is going to be better direction, liberalism, global governance, right? Regional integration. Many countries start to give up the national power towards integration. And the third assumption after 1990s is Russia and China happily cooperate with international order. I say happily, but maybe reluctantly too. They didn't have enough power to resist against, United States and others. But at least we have to say, Chinese leaders, Russian leaders didn't oppose to United States or G7 so much. But now, all 3 assumptions over, right? First, US is not only superpower, China is also superpower. Second, this world is going to a better world. Do you believe that? I don't believe that, right? Many countries start to be more nationalistic, protectionist. United Nations is suffering from lack of budget. I was in New York last week. I saw, in the morning, the United Nations headquarters building, but that big building, didn't have money now anymore, right? And also, China and Russia has supported international order? No, you saw the picture, right? So I believe, this will start to be destroyed. I mean, the international order after 1990s, for sure, destroyed. We have to admit. But how about the post-war order after 1945? After the Second World War, United States and many countries in the world established United Nations. Okay, this is the one thing, and this is still here. US, even without money, United Nations is there. But how about other assumption? After 1945, we believe US power is distinguished and United States could provide military stability through alliance and nuclear weapons. United States could provide financial stability by US dollar as exchange currency, which is so much called as Bretton Woods system, if you learned in classroom. And thirdly, United States and other countries try to promote international cooperation for free trade, human rights, and others. They, even destroy the system of slavery, right? So we are now seeing the end of post-war order after 1945. I don't know, but at least we can say some parts of post-war order after 1945 started to be questioned. If you don't believe what I'm saying, just Google the Trump administration and US dollar as exchange currency. Some people in Trump White House don't believe US dollar as international exchange currency. They believe because US dollar was exchange currency, United States has suffered by trade loss. I mean, they believe because US dollar was used so much in the world, they suffered by international trade. This is not what we learned in the international economic class, right? If you take any class here in UNAM about international trade, you learn different things. But Trump administration believe, no, we shouldn't provide US dollar for international order. We have to get more from international order. We shouldn't provide. We should get from international order. This is a kind of, we say, in Japanese we say, it's a kind of 180-degree change of understanding. Totally different understanding of the situation. So the international order after 1945, still here to some extent, but United States, which has underpinned this order, start to lose interest in having that order. Even for alliance partner like Japan, South Korea, NATO countries, they ask more, far more than providing something. Right? I don't want to say United States became predator. I don't want to say, but United States is not the being only providing something. They want to get far more as rewards. So this is a kind of radical change of the situation. Looking at US-China relations, as you may know, US and China, not friends anymore, right? Not friends anymore. Of course, like 20 years ago, Some people say, oh, US and China is friends and enemy, so frenemy. Yeah, fine, fine. I thought, US-China relations as such sometimes. But I think last 10 years, the relationship really changed. From 1972, US and China really changed diplomatic relationship. President Nixon visited Beijing, and two countries agreed to fix the relationship. And United States thought China should be away from Moscow, and they believe the rise of China is advantage for United States. Right? This is very important understanding. US thought not only to end the Vietnam War, but they believe that strong China is their advantage. Strong China is advantage. Yeah, it's a strong conviction for United States for many years. In 1989, June 4th, we had a Tiananmen incident in Beijing, and actually in other cities of China too. I don't want to say anything about that incident here. But even after that, analytically, it's very interesting. United States actually wanted to maintain the relationship with China, Chinese top leaders, right? They dispatched special envoy twice after that incident. And what American government say is, please don't do any more in, suppressing the citizen, but at the same time, they wanted to say, our relationship is important. Because in 1989, Cold War is still not ended. Berlin Wall was fallen in November 9th. China was still necessary for American planners, policy planners. Strong China has been important so much, had been important so much. And American companies also, received big returns from their investment to China. So it was really happy moment, 40 years, very happy. Of course, we have to say, so many programs of human rights and, but that's, for American strategy, it was good. But everything has changed last 10 years. US started to believe strong China is not their interest. So they start to say, we should be weakening the Chinese growth. Also, we have to align with other countries like Japan, like EU and UK, to change our posture toward China. And China also, realized, honeymoon is finally over. I think 40 years honeymoon is too long, but honeymoon is finally over. Chinese people start to accept the new fact. So US and China start to be so much tense relationship last 10 years. It started from the end of President Obama time, but past Trump administration changed so much about US-China relations. And, President Biden too. So as I say, Japan as just a neighbor to China, we finally, had to encounter the new reality. Our ally, United States, and our neighbor, China, doesn't enjoy good relationship anymore. We had to choose, and there's no time to think. Yes, we have to align with United States, right? There is no alternative. Even though China is very important economically for Japan's market, yes, we still have that, perspective so much. If you have any interest, please look at my own article about Japan-China strategy. Japan is not hostile to China. We are more complicated. But at the same time, Japan has decided to align with United States to counterbalance against rise of China. So this is like last 8 years, or so, after, the first Trump administration. If this is only within military alliance, that was fine to some extent. But the big new element is United States, as I said, wanted to weaken the growth of China because they have fear they might be catch up with China. DeepSeek is a really good example, right? But Chinese technology, science are really, growing so fast. So United States started to believe they, have to compete with China, but also they, if possible, they need to weaken the base of Chinese growth. It is so-called economic security. Economic security is a kind of new element. So like, United States ask its own company, but also other countries, not to export some sensitive items like semiconductor or the item to produce semiconductor. They also start to say, we shouldn't depend on Chinese supply chain of critical minerals. They start to say also, we shouldn't get investment from China in key industry. So these things are called economic security. But after like last 30 years, 40 years, this world really enjoyed globalization. The definition of globalization means we should be more free to exchange our money, goods, people, information, right? But economic security started to ask totally opposite things for national security reason. So some people say globalization is over. The time of globalization is over. Now this is a time of geopolitics or geoeconomics. But what they wanted to say is there is no free space only to enjoy the free trade or, free flow of money, goods, and people. So economic security is a really new element for us to think, but with huge cost, right? Next slide. I forgot. Yeah. It's a very huge cost. So, but we had to be in the same line with the United States. If not, we cannot manage our strategy with the United States against China. Japan did the same thing. EU did the same thing. UK also did the same thing. But here, now the second Trump administration, this is a big change. They still say, yes, economic security is very important. Japan, you shouldn't export sensitive things to China. But please look at, what US government is now doing with China. They start to sell really good semiconductor to China. Nvidia, AMD. And they say, oh, this is not the first rank. This is just the fourth rank of Nvidia tips. That's fine. But simultaneously asking Japanese and, as a European company, not to sell this item, this item, this item. But US can say, US is the only able to say, oh, this is fine. This is very unfair, right? But this is a kind of new situation today. Many countries in the world, at least in the West camp or American alliance, team up already against China. This is the story of last 10 years. But finally, United States itself start to say, yes, we have to keep this alliance against China. But at the same time, we want to sell this thing and this thing, these things, and want to get profit from Chinese market. So this is, you can say, very flexible, but we don't have that, as Japan, we don't have that luxury of freedom. This is very unfair. And also Japan, like many other countries, had to have trade negotiation with United States because they impose high tariff. Yes, thanks to the outgoing our prime minister, we finally received a 10% discount over tariff, right? From 25% to 15%. As you know, even automobile, we received a 10% discount over our tariff. Just 10%. Just 10%. We still have to pay 15%. But for that, say, discount, Japanese government has agreed to invest United States at 550 billion US dollar. It's a dear huge money. And even though the two governments will create a committee to decide where the money is going, American Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Ratnick said, oh, President Trump can decide where the money will go. So this is a reality now, right? Against China, even though Japan has a different, attitude to China, we really want to, see the stability. We really just simply want to deter Chinese aggression against Taiwan. We simply want to change, the new direction from China, but a more hawkish policy coming from United States. But Japan, as well as many countries in the world, as US ally, try to maintain the kind of coalition against China. But United States are very flexible. And at the same time, they request huge price to maintain the alliance. And this country, Japan, as I say, as an investment, 550 billion US dollar. Korea, 350 billion US dollar. This is very nasty world, right? So let me, going to kind of my concluding thought. What is Japan's strategy? So Japan, as I said, very busy to maintain this alliance. There are so many reasons to maintain this alliance, but simply put, Japan have no alternative option. At least for the eyes of policymakers, no other option. They have to depend on United States. They believe. So try to manage the alliance. Like, as I said, investing more to the United States, and, doing economic security, and also, spending more to military budget. Yes, is this a new strategy? No, this is very traditional strategy. Traditional. But is it enough? I don't know. So, please, next. Next. Yeah, sorry. I can come back to these slides, if you have any question, but sorry for this. But I think, many people in Tokyo start to believe, is it enough? Is it enough only to believe the traditional strategy, just to maintain the alliance? Maybe no. As I said, international order started to be something new. It's fluctuated already, right? Or fragmented. So what we should do? Only to manage our relationship with Washington, D.C.? I don't think so, right? But what can we do? Some people say, oh, we have to go totally new strategy. Plan B. Plan B is, in my definition, Plan B is go independent. Don't rely on United States and do more by ourselves. But, Japan is in East Asia, not safety place, right? So for that sake, maybe, in plan B, Japan has to spend far more in defense budget and also rethinking about its posture to nuclear weapons. This is plan B. Or plan C. Plan C is bandwagoning China, right? Oh, so we can say, now China, Xi Jinping, I love you. This is approach. But plan C might be too difficult for Japanese people to accept, right? Because there's no trust on China in Japanese society so much. This is very pity, I want to say. But it is very difficult now. Because now Chinese power is far, 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 far bigger than Japan economically and even militarily. So if we take a plan C, Japan will not keep its own, decision space, right? So it is too tough for Japan to go plan C. But plan B and C, we have to admit. But I think, mainstream view in Tokyo now is not plan B or plan C, but plan A, as I said, very traditional strategy, is not sufficient. So I and my friends always say, so now, we have to go plan A plus. A plus sounds really great in school, right? I mean, if you get a plan A plus, you're simply happy. So A plus strategy, we start to say, so what should we do? We should do more autonomously in foreign policy, like having more partners in the world. So can you go next slide? So I think, last 10 years or 20 years, Japan, enhanced relationship with like Australia, Korea, India, and other, European countries. But I think we start to see more, far more, efforts in having new friends, or some people say quasi-alliance. I mean, semi-alliance. Right? And this is just a photo taken 2 weeks ago in Tokyo Bay. In Tokyo Bay, we welcome aircraft carrier from United Kingdom, Prince of Wales. It is aircraft carrier. Of course, actually now Japan also have aircraft carrier. But, two countries had a good military exercise and good discussion. And in aircraft carrier, we even had big symposium because aircraft carrier has a big space. So we had a symposium, which we called Pacific Partnership Future. Pacific Future Forum, sorry. And this is a photo taken by them. Sorry, it is not clear enough, but I'm here as a speaker. So it was a really good experience for me to go to aircraft carrier to participate such a big event. And, what I know was it was without air conditioning, right? Tokyo Bay in end of August without air conditioning in aircraft carrier. It is worst experience ever, right? But we talk really good things about the future partnership with United Kingdom, right? So UK, Australia, Philippines, South Korea, these countries are, of course, allies of the United States. They try to do something more, not only in military sphere, but also in diplomatic sphere. So can you come back to the previous slide? So this is things I want to say. So many countries start to have new coalition, but that new coalition is to underpin the international order, or maybe restructure the international order. But they have a clear sense of crisis. As the first picture said, now the other side, China start to get more power and influence. Of course, China is not always rival, right? We have many things to cooperate with China. But, look at what Chinese government now saying about international order. We have to respect United Nations. We have to respect international law. We have to respect no interference to domestic affairs. Very basic of international order. I want to say it's a level 1. But this world, last 200 years already, went to level 100 in international order, right? We cooperate together so much about how to save this planet in global environmental problems. Or we always, discuss about, like a Mexican government also very energetic about the future of AI, right? And also about the nuclear weapons, very, very, how can I say, proactive in international order. But what Chinese government now try to say is going back to level 1. But level 100 might not be so attractive to some of the countries in Africa, or maybe in, some of Latin American countries. They start to be attracted by Chinese vision. But maybe we have to, maintain, we have to go more, right? We shouldn't go back, right? So this is the reason many countries, even without the presence of United States, or even without United States as a leading power, many countries start to be so serious about working together to preserve international order. So let me conclude what I wanted to say. So now we are now very difficult moment. Globalization is still here, but they are eroded, by the new concept of geopolitics, geoeconomics. And the United States, especially under Trump, but also, Democratic administration had the same future. United States is not like what we saw 20 years ago, 30 years ago. US is more protectionist. United States is more, pursuing self-interest. Many countries, including Mexico, including Japan, have to do more to promote this international order. If not, we cannot, maintain the world what we really wanted to see. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any question from any angle, I'm very happy to answer. So thank you very much for listening. I'm fine. Yeah, 20 minutes. As much as you want. Take a 20, 30 minutes. Until 11.
We really appreciate your interesting and outstanding presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahashi. Talking about the relationship between the United States and China today is not only necessary, but also extremely relevant for many of our countries, as both represent the main trading partners for almost all countries in the world, with Japan and Mexico being no exception. For this reason, the bilateral relationship between the United States and China is not only decisive for the international order, but also for the foreign policy and national economy of many countries. So thank you so much. I think Professor Uscanga also have a few words to say. No?
Yes, thank you very much. Sahashi 先生の発表はとても面白かったですね。誠にありがとうございます。ちょこっとはコメントさせていただきたいんですけど、英語でね、心配しないでください。
Don't worry.
So I'm gonna make my comments in English. I apologize because I didn't broke my glasses. After studying Japanese kanjis, I started to use it. But anyway, so I had the chance to hear professors' presentations, and also I did my homework and read some of his papers. So in that sense, I'm gonna make my comments. The lectures delivered by Sahashi Sensei presents a timely and incisive reflection on the structural transformation shaping the international order. It highlights the intensifying rivalry between the United States and China as a defining feature of the contemporary geopolitics, and the positive of Japan as an active player navigating these turbulent currents. In my understanding, some of the issues explained, they can be situated in a broader debate on global governance, power transition, and the role of great powers. First, Sahashi Sensei frames the US-China rivalry not simply as a bilateral competition, but as the principal structural force behind global uncertainty. The idea of fluid alignments, in particular, it's important, and it struggles to the states beyond the two great powers to increase unwilling to commit the rigid blocks. Instead, they seek flexible and adapted partnerships to defend their national interest. This reflects an emerging multipolarity where ambiguity and hidden strategies became the norm of statecraft, and where the stability of the post-Cold War order cannot be taken for granted. Second, Sahashi's description of US policy under the Trump administration as transactional highlights a critical departure from the historical pattern of American leadership. Rather than promoting a consistent liberal international order, now Washington emphasizes alliance burden sharing and selective diplomacy. The institutional mechanism that had long provided certainty and order at precisely this moment when crises demand cooperative responses. The notion of institutional guardrails had left the international system exposed to amplified instability. Third, the lecture points out China's strategy outreach to the so-called global south and the strengthening of ties between Russia and North Korea. These developments sign the emergence of alternative networks of alignment that operates outside the US-led order. China's engagement with the developing nations often courage in terms of infrastructure, investment, and not interference represents an attempt to build up legitimacy beyond Western institutions. Similarly, Russia's cooperation with North Korea complicates the already volatile security dynamics of Northeast Asia. Together, these moves demonstrate the fragmentation of international authority and the rise of competition visions of order. Finally, by bringing theoretical concerns about order with practical guidance, Sahashi underscored Japan's capacity not only to respond to the great powers' rivalry, but also the influence its trajectory. This is especially important given the ongoing erosion of establishment institutions and the uncertainty about the US commitment to liberal institutionalism, as I said before. Japan's proactive engagement thus offers a model of how states outside the great powers duopoly can shape outcomes in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. In conclusion, Sahashi's presentation delights Japan's simultaneously vulnerable and proactive, exposed to the turbulence of system rivalry, yet determined to play a stabilizing role. By highlighting the erosion of institutions, the compelling alignments forced by China and Russia, and Japan's multifaceted strategy. That piece captured the fluidity of the current order. The emphasis on collective responsibility and multilateral engagement underlines Japan's aspiration to preserve a rule-based, open, and stable global system. Some scholars and policymakers alike, this presentation serves as a valuable entry point into ongoing debates about the future of Indo-Pacific order and the role of middle powers and also emerging powers at Japan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uscanga. We will now move on to the question and answer section. We will collect 2 or 3 questions and then go through them one by one. So do you have any question?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for being here and for giving this very interesting presentation. My question might be simple, but it's meant to be very provocative. So I'm gonna say it and then I want to elaborate on why I am asking it. So the question is, why should we be wanting to keep the status quo in the international order? In the sense that something that caught my attention is that you mentioned that the current order or the previous order that is currently changing, something that was characteristic of it was that it was peaceful. But I'm not sure that I agree with that statement, or maybe I could say that I agree, but it was not peaceful for everyone. If we're starting from the beginning of this order post-Second World War, then this so-called Cold War was not cold for everyone. We cannot say it was a Cold War in Southeast Asia. We cannot say it was a Cold War in the Middle East. We cannot say it was a Cold War in Africa or in Latin America. So the Global South felt that violence of that period of time, it was not peaceful. If we're talking about a post-Cold War order, so after 1991, I don't think we can say it was peaceful either. You mentioned in this period of time this rise in cooperation between countries and regionalism, but the economic opening of many countries with these neoliberal economic practices, they put a lot of the population in precariety situations. They caused lots of social conflicts, and they made it easier for the environment to be exploited for its resources. So it caused like the current climate catastrophe that we are living. So something that I was thinking a lot about is that you mentioned that we, Mexico and Japan, are on the same boat, and we should want to maintain this current status quo, which I just described. But are we really on the same boat? Because Mexico being a part of the Global South, I don't think we can say that we've benefited the same way as maybe Japan and the Global North has from the previous status quo. So why should the Global South, and Mexico included, want to maintain this status quo? And with that, I open a quick parenthesis that this questioning that I'm doing does not mean that we want this new international order that it was shown, these pictures of the North Korean, Russian, and Chinese leaders. Why should we change hegemonic order for another, right? So I am not saying that we should just want to preserve the status quo to not go into another one. But I think it is important that we ask ourselves these questions, because we can just not take for granted that things are better now than they could be. So then we should not change anything. So yeah, that would be my question. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Sahashi. I have a question regarding Well, first and foremost, the part I was most interested in was as to how Japan would navigate or propose or maybe implement an increase in the defense budget. And this question has like two ways to part. Maybe beginning on how would the Japanese people react to these advancements? And second of all, what parties inside Japan and maybe even like outside corporate maybe would be the ones leading this effort? And that would be my question. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. And I want to ask you if do you think the parade, well, the parade that we all have seen in the last days, in which these three leaders were present, was an example of hard power disguised as soft power? And I want to know your opinion about this. How do you think these kind of meetings will move the possible international scenarios? Do you have one perspective or do you have multiple perspectives? And that's all. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My question, does Mexico's strategic position as a direct access point to the US market give Mexico a place Japan's economic strategy? Thank you. Hello, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Sahashi, for your interview. I appreciate that your point of view of cooperative goals, nuclear energy, possible societies, and media manipulation of global leaders. I consider that support our international studies. So if a new route of military power is being considered for Japan for a matter of survival in a collapsing international scenario, what are the challenges present by Japan framework, especially because of Article 9 of its constitution? Thank you so much.
The Japanese embassy is circulating a survey, so please answer it. A survey about this event.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank you for your visit at UNAM, your incredible presentation. But now I would like to ask you if a more formal/deep security cooperation relationship between Taiwan and Japanese is possible, especially after in recent years China blockades constantly Formosa Island. Thank you.
Miguel.
Hello, Dr. Sahashi. I always get nervous with public speaking, so it never gets better. My question is, you mentioned how it would be a possibility that the United States, with under Trump, could give could lead to the path for a U.S. Sanctioned or a U.S. endorsed nuclear North Korea. So, as you said, just don't make long-range missiles that don't reach our homeland, and you can have your program. How is Japan going to deal with that? Because I know that there's the historical context in Japanese society regarding nuclear weapons. So I wouldn't just imagine that it would be easy to start a nuclear program. I know it's very big on proliferation. So what I wanted to ask is, how would Japan deal with that? Because a very real threat of a nuclear armed hostile state very close by. Would it be just by increasing the military budget? Would it be by trying to ease relations with North Korea? Or do you think that a nuclear program would be necessary for that? Thank you very much. That's my question.
Professor Sahashi.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for excellent questions. So let me answer one by one. And thank you very much for the first question about the international order. Actually, we are on the same page. I didn't say we have to preserve US-led international order as it is, right? What I wanted to say is, we have to find out the elements we have to preserve of international order. This is very ironic, but last 80 years, we saw, for example, the advancement of human rights, even under the leadership of United States, right? And even under the Cold War between US and Soviet Union. We saw, the advancement of liberal idea, progressive ideas, right? So I think, like on the climate change, now United States is away from, our cooperation against the climate crisis. But we really had to preserve what we have done, right? So what I wanted to say is, about international order, we shouldn't, just maintain United States leadership or G7. No. This is not my idea, too. But we have to find out the elements we have to preserve. And for me, what Chinese government now saying is not sufficient. The good thing is Chinese government are sometimes very supportive. The good case study is, of course, climate change. They are really green, so we can cooperate with them, right? So my approach is not exclusive, not at all, right? But my approach is, we have to find out the advantage of the international order we had, right? Free trade is another good example. I really want to stress the free trade is most important, in our international economic order, right? Some people may want to ask, US dollar is start to be down. It is good, no. If we start to see the loss of US dollar as international exchange currency, everybody will be loser, right? So we have to, think one by one, elements by element, which, elements we want to preserve. But don't take me wrong. I don't say G7 or United States should be the center of the order, right? As Japanese, we emphasize is how can we do more with global South countries, right? And actually, Japanese government, I'm not representative government at all. you may know, but Japanese government start to say global South from Kishida administration, so 3 years ago, suddenly. But that time it was just a rhetoric. Yeah, we have to do more with global South country. It might be nice, very diplomatic. But now the kind of policy planners in Tokyo, including me, start to say global South more seriously. This is the only way we can save international order, right? And we start to realize for that we have to, have very fresh idea on the international order as it should be, right? So we know many frustration about the order, but we really also have to talk which element we really want to preserve, right? So this is what I wanted to say. And your question is about my title, Navigate. Yes, actually, I have to confess, I talk with ChatGPT for about title. And my ChatGPT, that time, I think ChatGPT 4 or something, proposed a few ideas, and I said, oh, Navigate is good. Yeah, so if you have any question, ask ChatGPT. This is just joking, but navigating US-China competition is, very important, but that doesn't mean we can change US-China relations from as a third party. We shouldn't be overconfident in ourselves, right? US, China, they have their own reason to compete. It is so difficult to exert influence from outside. Of course, as Japan, we try to say we should deter Taiwan Strait crisis. We shouldn't be too much, to stimulate China. But that might have some impact. But we know ourselves very well. US decide everything by themselves. Right? China too. So navigating, what I mean is, just like ship or aircraft, we have a lot of big wave or air turbulence. So we have to go in this very difficult world, not only to protect our own national interest, but as I say to you, responding to your answer, we have to preserve what our vision of international order. So, but by the word navigating, I didn't mean a big thing. I didn't mean big things. Just like a kind of good ship or aircraft, we have to. But we cannot rely on autopiloting anymore, right? We had rely on autopiloting system, US system, right? US alliance, or the relationship with United States for Mexico, but no. We have to do by our own selves, our own navigation. The third question is about, if not mistaken, so hard power, soft power issue. So yes, actually, these concepts are still very important. We have to admit, US is still very outstanding in hard power. Military sense, financial sense, economic sense, technological sense, US is distinguished, the only superpower actually, in many spheres. China started to catch up, but US hard power is really big. But we have to take just one step back to think about world politics. Soft power is really important because, many countries, decide what they have to do based on their own calculation and also, some countries' influence. United States had big influence in the past with vision, with value, right? But in the soft power, they still started to be not attractive enough. But if you closely read Professor Joe Knight's book of soft power and smart power, actually, I love smart power book more, but smart power, he stressed the soft power is not only the power to attract, it's a power, soft power is the power to set agenda. United States start to lose both, every soft power. So this is my concern. And China start to have more soft power, more agenda setting power. Right? But at least, but actually my biggest concern is actually not China. My biggest concern is, US power is declining. China start to say something, with soft power, but most of the country might not agree, might not be influenced so much by these, soft power and do what they believe they have to do. So just chaos, right? It is, G0, as Ian Bremer said. No country take a lead of the world. So this is a situation, I really fear. About the Mexican value for Japan's, say, economic strategy, it is still very big. Guanajuato, we have many, factories of Nissan, Toyota and Mazda, and, in other places, we also have many, many Japan companies. Of course, for that sake, I really want to see the good situation of USMCA relationship in free trade. We have really big worries about, the kind of trade relationship between Mexico and United States for this issue. But I think, still it is very important, and we cannot stress too much about the importance of Japan-Mexico relationship. Mexico is the one country we firstly had free trade agreement. Right? It is evidence, we really have big economic interest, and this is never lose sight. I mean, this is still the case. So please buy Japanese car to help our economy. So, and the next question is about peace constitution, I believe. Peace constitution experienced a slight change, as you may know, 10 years ago, under Shinzo Abe administration. Now, Article 9 has been a little bit changed from the past. That means Japan can exercise a collective self-defense right with some, in the very difficult situation, danger against Japanese people's survival. That means, in the situation like nearby Japan area, Japan could do more, with United States and other countries in using military power. But I think, peace constitution, some people really want to change Article 9 itself still, want to do far more. But I think in Japan's constitutional system, it is still very difficult to change Article 9 itself. So maybe, my government will do the things under this new interpretation of Article 9. So in some situations, they can exercise right of collective self-defense more with other countries. But, constitutional change is really, really difficult. And I don't think it is possible in coming years, few years. Japan, Taiwan, I think this is very interesting question. But, Taiwan and Japan don't have official relationship, just based on non-governmental interaction. But actually now, the former president of Taiwan, Republic of China, Tsai Ing-wen, just visited Japan and enjoy her summer retreat, actually, in Japan. Not political. We are really good relationship. We respect each other, Japan, Taiwan. So society level, culture level, economic level, really good relationship. For even political level, two countries started to work far more. But the military level, it is still very difficult. So, and I think, in the situation of Taiwan crisis, what Japanese government firstly want to do is our own homeland defense, to protect our border, to protect our people, and to evacuate our students from Taiwan, Formosa. So, and for that sake, the most important partner of Japan to talk is still United States. So, of course, with Taiwan, the Japanese government, should find a way to talk more. But I think the US is still indispensable, even for Taiwan issue. About North Korea, this is the final response. But about North Korea, yes, it is very difficult now. President Trump may want to talk with Kim Jong-un, Chairman Kim Jong-un, and they may conclude very beautiful conclusion, beautiful deal, right? This might not be good for South Korea and Japan. So now actually Lee Jae-myung government and maybe the new government of Japan will talk more about how could we stop, or how could we make tougher condition for the United States. But Trump is really difficult, so I think, I'm not so confident in changing his mindset, but, we should do. And what we are now proposing is, even for the United States, nuclear weapon itself should be abolished, should be dismantled from the very basic, from the very starting point. But, President Trump might not think like that way now. So it's could be a hard negotiation, but this is the first things we have to do. And the last element you said is, will Japan go nuke? I believe. I really don't think Japan is ready to go nuke at this moment. And this is really tough. And we shouldn't do that. So for that sake, but I think, first thing is we really have to talk with United States to enhance nuclear umbrella. Right? We say extend deterrence. This is the first thing. And the second thing is, we really have to find a way to support the kind of political movements to keep our countries as non-nuclear state. So we really work hard, not to go plan B, especially go nuke might be plan B plus, but we might have big debates, I believe, in the future about the nuclear option. But I believe, most people still think we shouldn't go that way. And as a professional or as just a student, we try to say, we shouldn't go that way. But for that sake, because North Korea security issue is really big, we really have to find a way, like, enhancing nuclear umbrella by the United States, and also possibly want to talk with our partners, neighbors, to stabilize the situation concerning to North Korea. So, but at this moment, I don't find, I don't have very big worries, but I start to have some worries about such option. But we have to work more not to go that way. So.
Thank you very much for your answers, Professor Sahashi. Now we will move on to the closing remarks. Well, we already gave some closing remarks, so only we want to thank the International Relations Center and la Embajada de Japón en México. Muchísimas gracias. El área de audiovisuales que hizo el broadcasting vía YouTube y Facebook. A todos ustedes por su asistencia, les agradecemos mucho. Y pues siguen eventos presentes sobre Asia este día, así que los invitamos a que continúen presentes para los siguientes eventos. Thank you very much, Professor Sahashi.
Gracias.